Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Marissa Kozlov. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and MarTech. During today's conversation, we'll discuss the latest advertising trends in CTV and tips to make them actionable. So now let's meet my guest. And joining us today from Los Angeles, we have Tim Edmondson, Senior Director of Content and Research at MNTN. Tim, it is so nice to have you back on the show.
It is so nice to be back. Thank you so much.
Love every time you come. You always have such great content for us. So I'm really looking forward to all that you're going to share with us today. And I also want to remind our audience that Tim is going to be sticking around for a live Q&A in the second part of the show. So just as a reminder, keep it conversational with us. Use the chat window on the right to tell us not only where you're joining us from today, but also to submit your questions. Tim and I are going to do our best to get to as many of those live questions as we can. So please keep them coming. We have a great content plan for you today. Tim, I'm going to pass it to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marissa. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Super excited to be here, like I said, and very excited to share what we have in store. So March Adness, first day of March Madness, you guys. Hope you filled out your brackets. I forgot to, so don't be like me. But good luck to everyone out there. Let's dive into what our subject matter, what we're going to be talking about today. So let's dive in. All right. So up at the top, we always like to start with a key takeaway. And so, we're going to be covering the trends that are really impacting connected TV advertising. At Mountain, we have a front row seat to that. We work with a ton of advertisers who are running campaigns. And one thing that you're going to see in these trends, a through line throughout all of them, there's a common factor. It's everything that's kind of leaning towards performance marketing on connected TV. The reason being connected TV, because it has a digital backbone through its targeting components, its measurement capabilities, and just overall, campaign setup, the whole 9 yards, it is very well positioned to be a very strong performance channel for advertisers. And the trends really bear that out. So as we go through, we touch on everything from what advertisers are doing, what we're seeing, to the technology that enables that. Just keep that in mind. It's a performance marketing play. If that's something that you're interested in, you're in luck. So let's dive into our agenda. Let's set the stage. So up top, we're going to start with the current state of connected TV advertising. Always good to kind of set the groundwork. We're going to dive into those technologies that are really enabling these trends that we're seeing, that advertisers are leaning into today. We're going to look at some successful trends from brands. And lastly, we're going to look at a case study where we're going to really see this all coming into action, kind of a culmination of a lot of the trends that we're going to be covering today. So let's get started. State of CTV, start at the top. It's no secret, streaming television is in a very strong position right now. It is the new way people watch television. Linear is kind of fading. The streaming TV landscape has overtaken it in terms of viewership. The subscriber rates are through the roof. The content machines are humming along. Every major network has some sort of streaming presence. And that's big. That's great news for advertisers because that means there's a lot of viewers and a lot of inventory coming online. You can see what's listed on this slide here. Netflix, who is always, up until recently, very much the subscription only, no ads. They've gone into the ad game. They've said it's their number one priority in growing those ad tiers. Disney Plus, they're a huge name in the industry. I don't need to tell you guys that. Their prediction in 4 years, nearly 9 in 10 of their viewers are going to be on that ad-supported model. So if you are an advertiser who is dipping their toe in the water when it comes to streaming TV, or are already there and need reasons to continue to test and innovate and just really commit, you just know that you're going to have a captive audience, people that are interested in watching TV this way and ways to engage them. And you can see the stat there. Half the country will be on ad-supported streaming content. So that's huge. This is a moment we've kind of been working towards as streaming has evolved. And now we're there. We've hit that tipping point. So there's a lot of opportunity for advertisers to really just dive in, start generating measurable results via the TV screen, which is, that's awesome. It's not something that's really been possible before, having that direct reporting component and targeting component on the TV. So now that we've covered that, we're going to dive into those trends. We're going to start to talk about what advertisers are doing, what we're seeing here at Mountain. Um, you see on the slide, it's those fundamental components. It's the targeting aspect, it's the measurement aspect, it's the creative component. Those are really what's driving innovation, what's driving the trends that we're going to be talking about. And it's really opened up the possibilities for what's possible. And speaking of which, if you're going to be talking about trends in any sort of capacity, whether it be in advertising or probably any industry in the world, I think you're going to guess correctly if you're going to guess what's on the next slide. It's AI, you guys. What a shocker. So artificial intelligence, it's a huge thing in the world, obviously, and it's a big thing that's emerging in advertising technology, especially. It's really starting to bridge the gap. It's enabling components that existed, targeting, et cetera, to be more effective. It's just a lot of processing power. That's what everything comes down to is its time and energy and resources, and AI is a way to fast track that. And so it's starting to be integrated into different components of the advertising landscape. Recently, we partnered up with Ad Exchanger, did some co-branded research just to gauge how marketers are engaging with AI. And you can see the stats here. There's a lot of interest, a lot of adoption. 85% of advertisers are using it or discussing using it for their ads. That's a big deal, nearly 9 in 10. 36% of advertisers currently use it for audience building and targeting. That's an interesting stat, 1 in 3, pretty much. And AI adoption. This was something I thought was pretty interesting that what came out of that research. We found that advertisers with larger budgets, so essentially larger companies, if you want to make that jump, were really adopting AI more so than the smaller ones. And that's an interesting thing for me because you would think, possibly, these are assumptions, these are my own, you have your own as well, but more smaller, nimble brands may be looking to the advantages of AI, but you're really not seeing that play out quite yet. So if you are a smaller brand, take that into consideration. There's an opportunity if you're competing against folks in your industry. You might want to look into the AI component, see what it can start doing for you. But, we mentioned that it really zeroes in on the targeting aspect. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And that leads us to our next trend that we're really seeing, which is an expansion of the targeting capabilities on connected TV. Namely, we'll use CRM targeting as the example there. So if you're familiar with CRM targeting, or if you're not, it's, you're uploading, say, an email list. Let's say you have a loyalty program. You have those customers who, are repeat customers. The lifetime value of those folks is exceedingly high. So you probably want to engage them more. And you can do that with connected TV. This is something that is, no stranger to digital marketing, but with it being on television, that's relatively new. This is something that we've offered on our platform. And just as a side note, not to be overly promotional, but some of this stuff we're going to be looking through the lens of what we have on our platform. A lot of this technology we're going to be covering, and that's something that you should take into account as you explore this space, as you're looking into possibly working with a solution or a partner. Not everyone has all the same technology quite yet. Not everyone has the same components. So if anything in this presentation piques your interest, if you're working with someone or you're evaluating options, be sure to ask them, if they have that capability, because you don't want to get into it and then realize it's not available to you. So quick side note on that front. But going back to the targeting aspect, CRM, you're able to engage those loyalty customers, like I said. You can open up opportunities for upsells, lower funnel strategies. Connected TV has retargeting as a component as well, which we will explore a little bit later. But, if someone visits your website, you have the ability to serve that person an ad. They showed intent, and you can actually target based on the intent they showed while visiting your site. So if they added items to their cart, you can go for a cart abandonment campaign, or if they visited a lot of product pages or specific product pages. All of that's possible, and engaging those customers who have high intent, or via the CRM targeting, like a loyalty component or a known customer, that can generate a lot of performance, really maximize the value of your existing or high intent prospects. So highly recommend diving into targeting options because we're seeing a big trend in exploring more and more of the components available. People are really starting to explore the space more and all the options available. So the targeting component, you mentioned it's a performance channel. So you can target and you can measure. And the measurement component obviously is what enables it to be a performance marketing channel, because if you don't know what's happening, well, then you can't really, claim a lot of performance. You can't assign credit where it's due. So the measurement component is enabling a lot of the other things that we're seeing. And one trend that we're seeing as well is starting to take CTV measurement, attribution, et cetera, out of a silo and integrating it more into the reporting infrastructure that marketers have set up already within their organization. Google Analytics, for example, almost everyone relies on GA4, right? That's something that can be integrated into your connected TV advertising. Mountain does that. You see integration stats here where it shows boosts in performance once the measurement was locked in and successfully integrated. This refers to our recent integration with Rockerbox. So again, marketers have a set way that they're measuring performance holistically within the organization. You're now able to take these connected TV campaigns, plug them into that. That's huge. We're seeing a lot of advertisers do that. And I doubt the demand to do so will drop by anytime soon. It's going to continue strongly. If you aren't doing this yet, there are capabilities to do it. So again, look for solutions that offer this. It's going to make your life easier, reporting easier. Your life's going to be easier. What's not to love, right? Getting into our next piece here. Speaking of loving things, incrementality reporting. Who doesn't love that? So the whole point of advertising, right, is to generate business, generate new business, repeat business, et cetera. But they always have a baseline, a base level of money coming in, website visits, et cetera. When you start to get more and more sophisticated with the technology in an ad channel, which is what we're seeing on connected TV, the technology is becoming more sophisticated every day and really unlocking more opportunities. You start to see things like incrementality reporting becoming more of a norm. So that is possible on connected TV. And we've seen a lot of advertisers lean into this. We've seen a lot of advertisers ask about this and care about this because it helps prove value of an ad channel. If you're dedicating budget, I know recently we've had economic uncertainty. That's been a topic that has claimed a lot of headlines, inflation, et cetera. You have to be responsible for how you spend your budgets. You have to know that you're spending it wisely. And this is another way to generate peace of mind. It lets them know that their campaigns are working, that they are offering additional value, that it's something that is worth the investment. And that matters big time, right? I don't have to tell you guys, you know that. Moving along, cross-device measurement. So, all this measurement is enabled by attribution technology. And, this is something that's more of an enabler of a trend, but it's important to explain in this context. Connected TV, television in general, by its very nature, when it comes to advertising, is cross-device. Someone's going to view an ad on the TV, and these are edge cases. Some solutions offers shoppable ads on connected TV, but that's the exception, not the norm. And most, if you follow consumer behavior, that's not the norm either. Generally speaking, someone's going to see that ad and they're going to visit your website or your store at a later time. So it's important to be able to track that customer journey. And that's possible. That's a figured out science right now. It's done with social, it's done with search. These are figured out methodologies. And that same thing applies to connected TV. It's available. And it's important, that your solution, if you're using CTV, is able to track that. And again, not everyone will have a strong attribution. It's still a nascent space when it comes to the technology. Everyone's kind of moving along at different paces. And so attribution might not be locked in across the board. So if that is something that you care about and you really, really should, be sure you're asking the solutions that you're working with or evaluating, what's their methodology? How do they approach that? It's an important question to ask. All right. Well, We've covered targeting, we've covered measurement, all exciting topics. Let's get into the most exciting one, creative. So this is where the rubber really meets the road. When it comes to CTV advertising and a lot of advertising in general, there are a couple of levers that can be pulled. It's your audience strategy, your creative approach. These things you have a ton of control over. You have, when it comes to a lot of digital channels, the optimization, which has become a very hot area for innovation in terms of technology, a lot of automated optimization systems are in place. And so those are making decisions faster than any human media buyer can make. It's in service of a goal most in general. Like that's how it's done on the Mountain platform. If you have a campaign where it's return on ad spend as your goal, the campaign is going to optimize. It's going to be automated, making those decisions using a ton of data points to determine where those ads should serve in service of the goal you're trying to hit. That's automated. That's the technology. That's it taking care of business for you. You set it up to succeed and you watch it go. The creative aspect is where you have a lot of control. And it's not just the approach, it's also how you approach it. Wait, I don't know if that made sense. So I'm going to back up. It's essentially like you need to not only have a good ad, you need to have a plan to really maximize the value of that ad and mix it up. You can see the stats on this slide here. 67% of viewers, they crave variety and different storytelling approaches. Everyone, ad fatigue is a real deal. You might have your own personal stories where there's an ad you continuously see while you stream. That is not a lot of fun. And especially if it's happening for the brand that you market for your brand. So it's essential. And thankfully, the way that connected TV can deliver ads, you should definitely be investing in creative variations. That sounds like a big undertaking, but it's not really. And we'll get a little bit more into that. So the refreshing aspect, I mentioned the ad fatigue. That is a trend that continues to reign in advertising in general. Eventually, your creative is going to get a little stale. And so you need to be able to refresh regularly, which means more creative. And I mentioned that might seem daunting, it might seem expensive, but it's really not. We have seen advertisers on our platform. This is a trend that we embrace and we celebrate, and we want more people to take this approach. Is they will have an ad unit, a 30-second ad, and they will make adjustments to it. They'll mix it up. They'll make different edits, different voiceover, different end card. They can split that up in terms of where it's served, because you can serve ads to one specific audience, and you can do that with a different audience, different campaigns, serving one ad that speaks to one, serve the other variation that speaks to another. That allows you to really deliver personalized stories to these folks and really take advantage of the personalization aspect that connected TV enables. You see here, the A/B testing is an option as well. And we see advertisers really embrace that. It's something where let's say you're not splitting it up, but you want to see which ad has the strongest impact on your ideal audience. You can run two variations against one another, see which one outperforms the other, and then you can go with that one, maximizing the performance impact of your campaign. This is something that we've seen in action. Advertisers have succeeded with it. It's a trend I don't think is going to go away. This is something that it's been a little bit of for me personally, something I've kept a lot of attention on, because as more advertisers get into this space, the creative component will become a bigger need. And so how do you maximize your investment? Ads can potentially be, a big commitment. You want to be able to get as much value out of it as possible. You want to be able to refresh them regularly so you avoid fatigue. It's all about your approach to developing that creative. And so one thing that we've seen is advertisers looking for ways to enable that. And they don't want to break the bank doing it. And so something that we've done at Mountain, it's creative as a subscription. Essentially, it allows you to get multiple ads over a stretch of time. The money that you're spending is just what you spend on media. And you can see the stats right there. advertisers who were investing in this saw more creative variations and benefited greatly. It's a big deal. And, you have your own anecdotal experience where, you're seeing that same ad over and over. This allows you to sidestep that. Finding a way to fast track and enable more creative production, more creative variation, but in a way that is cost efficient is crucial. So that's something that you should look into. I highly recommend doing that. The creative variation trend is only going to strengthen as more capabilities like this come online. So, keep that in mind when you're building out your plan, when you're planning your media strategy. Make sure you have creative variation top of mind because it can and will make a big impact. So that through line, that performance aspect, I think it's been pretty obvious throughout, but if it's not, got a slide right here to reinforce the point. So CTV's role in the marketing mix, television in general has always been kind of an awareness play, and it's due to its strengths, but also its limitations. We're unable really to have that digital marketing targeting aspect, nor the reporting. There are ways to measure impact, but they aren't direct like they would be on a digital channel. So that's something that you can do a lot with connected TV. And so when you start to take a performance approach, that opens up a plethora of opportunities. And so MNTN Research, which is our site where we dedicate just to analyzing, investigating. We look at our own first-party data. We look at industry research. One of the things that we did is we looked back in Q4 and we kind of analyzed what were advertisers doing in terms of their approach to connected TV campaigns through the lens of performance marketing, because our platform is performance focused. That's what it does, like a paid search or social campaign. And we found that return on ad spend was the top choice for campaign objectives, which makes sense. You are looking to generate as much return as possible on your spend, and the campaigns are optimized in service of that. So this tells us two things. It shows that one, that advertisers have essentially accepted connected TV as a performance pillar in their strategy. They relied on it. They spent, they invested, and they reaped the benefits. They generated a lot of strong performance, and that trust. They trusted to deliver conversions and revenue, and that's what happened. And so I think this is really interesting, and this is an area that we're going to continue to look at MNTN. Just what is the approach to performance marketing on connected TV? What is the approach to performance TV? I think as we see more advertisers adopt it, we're going to learn a lot. And we're going to continue to share that in presentations with eMarketer, of course, but also out there in the world, because I think we're on the cusp of a really interesting and new approach to advertising in general. That's what connected TV represents. That's the opportunity at stake. So looking forward to sharing more insights like this with you all in the future. Another thing that we saw, so again, we're looking at the performance trends. We're looking at the impact that connected TV has, not only for those connected TV campaigns specifically, but also a halo effect. What is the impact across the marketing mix? It's a good question, and it has a good answer. So TV, very impactful, very memorable ad channel. It clearly, the data bears it out. It has an influence on consumers when they are seeing another one of your ads in a different channel. They have that recognition. Their eyes don't glaze over as they scroll through their feed or Google something. Your name will catch their eye, and that is shown through these stats here. The halo effect. We saw that MNTN campaigns were generating. The advertisers were seeing 9% stronger conversion rates on their paid social, 22% stronger on their paid search. And we don't have this on the slide, but we also saw boosts in email marketing. So, connected TV, I think, is something that is worthy of investment because you're not only getting a new performance channel, it's going to generate incremental revenue, which you can measure with incrementality reporting, but also you're going to see benefits for paid search and social, which is huge because I think a lot of the advertisers who are heavily leaning into connected TV as a performance marketing channel traditionally rely on paid search, traditionally rely on paid social. So if that's something that you do, anything that you can add to your mix that's going to enhance these strategies you're already relying on, I mean, that's just good sense. You're going to want to do that. And the results bear that out. So keep that in mind. All right, so we've been talking about different technology, different trends. Here's an example of all of that in action. Bones Coffee, who I'm not being paid to say this. It is fantastic coffee, you guys. You should definitely check it out. There's an Indiana Jones themed one, Crusaders Cup. It's a Keurig. I'm sure they sell the beans, but it is so good. I got it for Christmas. So check them out. But there's back to their actual success story. They work with agency ACTN, and they really came to connected TV with a holistic approach. And I think I hope the sense, talking about paid search, talking about those halo effects, connected TV has a place, a firm place, and a strong place in a marketing mix. So if you have that holistic approach, trying to hit every channel, CTV slots right in very well. And so how did they approach CTV? They mentioned earlier, the retargeting aspect. They went after audiences who visited Bones Coffee's website. They utilized that GA integration to help figure out their strategy, what was working, what wasn't, which pages were seeing good traffic, et cetera. And they targeted users based on that. They went after those high intent audiences because they said, well, if this is able to produce performance, let's lean into that. Let's go after those lower funnel folks. And how they do, you guys, no bones about it. Love that line. The campaign results were very strong. They saw an increase in gross revenue quarter over quarter. They saw an increase in return on ad spend. Their conversions were strong. Their paid search return on ad spend was looking solid. It was incremental performance. They really benefited greatly from integrating connected TV into their marketing mix, and not on the awareness level, but going after those high intent audiences, going after those lower funnel folks. They were able to really see very positive results. And you love to see it. Their success is their agency's success is our success. And so this is a story that's playing out across the space. They're leaning into the capabilities, and they're really, as these advertisers continue to use it, get better with it, start to understand the space more, lean into those creative variations, the nuanced creative approach, and just taking advantage of all those capabilities, they're generating the trends that we're seeing. So it's things like this that result in the overarching narratives that are starting to play out. And I think for the benefit of all advertisers, one of those narratives is connected TV is a fantastic performance play. So if you haven't considered it, you should. If you're thinking about CTV in general, if you want to use it for awareness, by all means, please do so. But with connected TV has that performance component. You not only get the performance, but because it's TV, you get brand awareness. So brand awareness free with every performance campaign. That's not a bad deal. And we're at our last slide here. So I hope you guys found this useful. I hope you guys found it enjoyable and learned a thing or two. I really enjoyed sharing this information with you all. And we're going to end it with some key takeaways. So we started at the top of the state of CTV advertising. I think, you look at the headlines, you look at your own TV, you go into your smart TV, if you're subscribing to these things, if you have ad-supported options that are a little bit more affordable, everyone else is doing that too. You're not alone. So it's very advertiser friendly and is only going to get better. Disney said, almost 9 in 10 in a few years will be on their ad tier. Everyone's going to be watching ads on CTV. So huge opportunity there. Dedicated a lot of time to this, but those features and capabilities, that's what's really setting it up. That's what's really the most exciting aspect of connected TV is the innovation front on the technology. That's what's really fueling the trends. That's what's going to set the pace and really just shape the identity of this as an ad channel now and in the years to come. And then lastly, AI started the talk with that. It's something that marketers are embracing. I think everyone's organization has at least talked about it. According to our data, I think it was almost 9 in 10. It's only going to be a bigger theme as we move along. And you're going to start to see that play out in the technology. You're going to see that play out in marketers' strategies and how they kind of approach things internally when they're doing their planning sessions. It's going to be a component that factors in. So definitely start to think about that. It's a tool that can be extremely useful, whether it's for helping you develop buyer personas, or when you're using an ad solution that enables you to fast track targeting, find high intent audiences, et cetera. It's going to be a big deal. And so I recommend starting to educate, start to learn more about it. Just, see what's available and see what's possible, because it's something to be excited about. And that's it. That's all I've got, you guys. Thanks again for letting me share it with you. And I'm going to hand it back over to Marissa.
Well, don't go anywhere, Tim, because we have a lot of questions ahead. So that is not it. But that was, oh yeah, the questions, right? Well, just so you know, our audience has been engaging with us a ton in the chat. We have people from everywhere, both of our markets, New York and LA, as well as I saw some folks give a shout out from Philly, from Tallahassee, Florida, from Montreal. So we have lots of people who have been on today and lots of people who have been engaging with us. So thank you so much for the fantastic presentation. I mean, there was definitely a lot of things that stood out to me. I was taking notes. One thing you said at the top really struck me, really thinking about taking CTV measurement out of this silo and really integrating it into the tools that marketers are using really notes a step forward, I think, with measurement, but also thinking about where consumers are, how many devices they're flip-flopping back and forth between, and how important that creative is to keep it fresh for the customer. So thanks a lot for highlighting so much great information.
Yeah.
Tim, you ready for the questions?
Bring them on.
All right. So the first one says, these advancements are making CTV's targeting and measurement as robust as social media. What's the best way to align these channels to complement one another and also prevent redundancy?
Yeah, good question. I think there was an element of the holistic approach we were exploring, and you saw that in Bones Coffee. We saw that just in the halo effect. I think the redundancy is something that obviously there's concern there, but having a connected, strong message that breaks across different channels is extremely helpful. And so, there's nothing in here that suggests that, you should stop advertising on search, stop advertising on social. That would be nutty. Don't do that. But there is a way to kind of create a cohesiveness in your message. I think everyone, always wants to do that. But, that halo effect really speaks to the fact that if you're catching someone's attention, that familiarity is what makes them stop and pause and consider once they see your ad in a feed. And if you have that unified message, then that's another thing that can spark their attention. And so I'd say, continue to invest in them. Look at your overall strategy. Redundancy in terms of performance. This is an incremental performance channel. I think the data shows that you can actually back that up with the reporting capabilities that are available. So lean into that overall message. Continue to invest in every performance channel. Add CTV to that mix, and you're going to benefit greatly.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. So I have a few questions that came in on cookie deprecation. We know 2024 is the year that cookies have started to go away. So a few questions here for you. How do you see cookie deprecation and identity change overall impacting CTV targeting and performance?
I mean, it's a good question. I think cookie deprecation has been in the news for a very long time. And we've all, I think as an industry, have been moving towards it. So the base source from that is the privacy concerns, right? Like there is concern around that in terms of just the industry at large. So in terms of cookie deprecation, you're going to need to work with solutions that's mitigated, that isn't an issue. And for your own benefit, I think looking into the advantages of your first party data are huge. So, mention that retargeting component, that data of your coming from your own website traffic, your own CRM information, your first party data is going to be very valuable. And thankfully, connected TV allows you to unlock that, allows you to lean in and take advantage of that. Similarly, the audience targeting, the measurement, all of that. The measurement, thankfully, doesn't really rely on the cookies. The audience targeting component, there are some things out there that do have cookies, others don't. And so thankfully, there's a huge focus. Again, I mentioned the privacy, everything in terms of, like, for example, what Mountain does, GDPR, privacy regulations, all of the audience targeting data is all follows that. I mean, I think everyone does. If you don't, I think you're in trouble, actually. So make sure you're following the rules, you guys. But I think it's always going to be a continuous conversation when it comes to advertising in general. And so thankfully, connected TV, I don't think is in any position where that it's overly sensitive to it. There are ways where you can continue to engage your audience. You can have your first party data. Yeah, I think it's going to be something where we're going to continue to see how it plays out. But in terms of performance capabilities, in terms of measurement, in terms of the targeting aspects, there's always going to be a way to move forward with that. So feel good about it.
Thank you. I mean, and even to follow up on that, we had another viewer who's wondering if they should be worried about the validity of CRM data or emails, given that cookies are going away. What are your thoughts?
In terms of that, I think the audience matching is always going to be something. So when you're uploading your CRM, I think anyone who's worked in that, it doesn't matter what channel, it's going to be something where you're going to have to match, and you're going to get a percentage of your audience that is going to be able to be matched to it. I haven't looked at the numbers for a bit in full transparency, but the match rates on CTV have been very strong in terms of what you get on other channels as well. So I think in terms of, again, data privacy, the management of all that, keep an eye on the headlines and just the regulations. But, as we move along, everyone's going to want to follow those regulations, make sure everything is up to code, I guess is the phrase. And right now and in for foreseeable future, that should continue to be the case. So again, follow those privacy regulations, work with a solution that does, and you should be okay.
Okay. Rule of thumb, be the rule follower, right?
It helps, yeah.
Okay, our next viewer asks about A/B testing. So this, I believe, came in when you were talking about viewers using lots of different devices. So this viewer asks, how can we, if possible, use cross-device analytics to affirm our A/B testing, such as a 15-second ad versus a 30-second ad, which actually leads to the purchase? Is there a time decay component that's available?
Oh man, I love these questions, you guys. Come on now. These are great. So I think the A/B testing component, yeah. So when you're measuring creative against one another, I guess, the performance aspect obviously plays into it. That's going to determine which one wins. And so the attribution plays heavily into that. And I think, the time decay aspect. So when it comes to any sort of responsible attribution, time does play into it, right? Like, you don't want to take credit for something that happened like 300 days beforehand and be like, yeah, that was us. No, that's probably not the case. And so when it comes to attribution, there should be some level of control over setting windows, whether it be a visit window, conversion window, et cetera. There should be on the technology side, but also something that matches your sales cycles. So that's a big piece of that. I would say that if you have that attribution locked in, if you understand how performance is evaluated, it really adds validity to the A/B test results. So if you are testing one ad unit against another, and I think it's always good to try to keep the variables limited so you're sure what's making the difference, but also you don't have to do that. You can just see what one works better than the other. All of that is enabled by the attribution. So I'd mentioned before, if you're working with a solution or you're considering them, quiz them on it. Make sure that that they can even A/B test, because not everyone can do that. And B, how is that performance being evaluated? It really comes down to the science behind how they measure attribution in general. So if you're comfortable with that, then you should be comfortable with the A/B test results.
Okay. Well, speaking of attribution, another viewer asks, what's the attribution window for CTV, and is this longer or shorter than other channels?
Oh, it's up to you, I think. So I mentioned, I think there's always going to be a default when it comes to setting an attribution window. But I work for Mountain, so customer advertisers, they're all different sales cycles will always come into play, you know? And so when it comes to setting an attribution window, in general, I mean, it's gonna depend on your sales cycle, the type of industry you're in, customer behavior. You should be able to map back to that. I think from what I've seen, in general, like a 2 week, 14-day visit window. Don't quote me on that. This is just me speculating, but that I've seen that before. 30-day. So take that with a grain of salt. But I think the real answer there is, being able to map back to your sales cycle, what makes sense for you as a business. You should be that will really determine what is the appropriate window for your CTV campaigns.
All right, thank you. We're just going to take two more questions. The first one is about shoppable ads. This has been a really hot topic of conversation lately. Do you think shoppable ads that are being tested on these platforms can be considered as distracting and disruptive as they gain more traction?
Oh man, this is me talking. So I think anecdotally, I kind of do, but that's going to be a case by case basis with everyone. I think everyone has a different relationship with ads. Some people don't mind them. The stats really show on ad supported, like people see them as a fair trade. If they get the content for a reduced price or for free, they're cool with the ads. And we've seen the performance that plays out for specific customers or just aggregated data in this presentation and the stuff that I've seen outside of that shows that people aren't too mad about ads because the performance, it's generating a result from the viewer and generating results for the advertiser. So shoppable ads, I think this is going to be a debate. You're going to see it play out in the trades where people are saying like, oh, is this too much? Oh, is it effective? There's always going to be a balance between the two. So, time will tell, I think. People will always have strong opinions in advertising. For now, I think if you do it well and if you do it right, going back to that creative component, people like entertaining things. So it is shoppable, but it's done in a classy way, for lack of a better term. I think people won't mind it too much. So,
Yeah, that's a great point.
Quality reigns. Yeah.
Yeah. Tim, we're going to take one more question today. One of our viewers thanks you very much for your comparisons of CTV to digital and search. They then ask, how are you finding its comparison in efficiencies, performance, specifically against linear TV? For some advertisers, the higher percentage of potential budget shift is more likely to come from there. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the established TV advertisers, definitely, right? Like that's something that you'll consider. And I think from what I've seen from surveys that we've done, research, there's going to be a segment of the advertising world where the money will come from linear. So there is a trade-off, I think, and linear has strengths and connected TV have strengths. And this determines ultimately, I think, the spend breakout. So, I mentioned linear, very much an awareness play. You want to reach folks who you think are going to buy, make sure that your audience knows about it, really cast a wide net, reach as many people as possible, people who may not have heard of your brand. That's great. And linear has always been good at that because it has a ton of viewers. And I think today that holds true. But one thing as time moves along, you've seen the rise of streaming. It's eclipsed linear. That's not a trend that's likely to reverse. I think it would be a crazy turn of events if that happened. And so the awareness aspect, just the investment in linear TV, its strength being awareness, the viewership is declining. So connected TV, though, viewership is increasing. On the flip side, you have the fragmentation aspect where, when it comes to broadcast, you can reach that audience all in one go. Your viewer might be watching all over the place when it comes to CTV. They're jumping from streaming service to streaming service. So for a broad awareness, it has limitations because of that. But it allows you to lean in heavy on the performance aspect. And so for established brands who have robust TV plans already, it gives you an additional play when it comes to your TV budget, where say, okay, yes, maybe we're not thinking about it for awareness strictly, but what do we get by investing in CTV? Well, we can actually see the impact of the ads. We can see completion rates. We can see how many impressions were served. A lot of the estimating and guesstimating is kind of removed from that. So that's an advantage. So I think it comes down, it's not a cop out, but it sounds like one. It's going to be a case by case basis for everyone. It's going to come down to the needs that you have. And so we've seen survey results where people are carving budget out of linear to put it into streaming TV advertising. I think that will continue. And as the years go by and the strength of linear kind of is evaluated and reevaluated, I think the budgets will reflect that. And I think the strength in what CTV offers is that continues to iterate, the technology gets stronger, more viewers are engaged and on ad tiers. That's going to make you evaluate your approach and how much budget you want to dedicate to it. So yeah, we're seeing people pull from linear now. I think we'll continue to see that trend. My guess is we'll see it increase because TV viewership is on streaming. So if you want to reach people on TV, you're going to have to invest.
All right, Tim, thank you so much. It was so great to have you back today. Excellent content and such insightful answers to the Q&A from our audience. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Marissa.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, before we wrap it up, I'm just going to share some things happening across eMarketer's media channels. You can register for live analyst and Tech Talk webinars on our events page at eMarketer.com/events. On the audio side, don't forget to tune into Behind the Numbers, which is our eMarketer daily podcast. And finally, please check out our various newsletters. Thank you all for your time. And thanks again to Tim, the team at Mountain, and our eMarketer studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.